Hey babies, it's your favorite host, Mr. BMG, back at it again with another episode. Let's get into it. Anyway, babies, I hope you have had an amazing weekend that you're about to have. That is going to be amazing. And you're doing everything that makes your heart full. It turns out Kenya Moore, Miss Mora Mora, as Miss Lawrence would say, is not returning to the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 17, despite, kind of alluding to the fact that she will be back at Bravo, or she'll be back on the show, So I just kind of feel like, in some ways, she's taken us for a ride because, look, I think the whole season we were all fighting each other online, vindicating Kenya Moore. But beyond vindicating Kenya Moore, the facts were the facts. Brit showed her ass and, exposed her very ugly nature. So Kenya Moore's vindication, although that was probably like a manifestation on her part, or something that she probably just said because that's what she wanted to happen before it even happened, kind of, came automatically. Now it's like all of that for all the people who are kind of rallying and, trying to get this girl for people to put some respect on her name as she deserved. Now she's still not going to come back, So I just kind of feel like it's bittersweet in the sense that, sweet in the sense that it looks like she's in a better place. It looks like she's moved on from the Real Housewives of Atlanta in some ways. She's got her own, podcast, Live Twirls on, which is actually very entertaining, by the way. She just had actually Miss Lawrence on one of the episodes, which I think was such an amazing episode because, we know that they go way back. For me, it reminds me of the good old days, when Miss Lawrence was there and also Sheree was there, and that whole dynamic of those girlies back in the day when everything was not as highfalutin. Yeah, she's not coming back. She's got this beautiful show. She looks like she's in a really good place. She looks like she's okay with it. It's no more disgruntled energy. It's just like, listen, it is what it is. I've moved on. And she was quite clever in, still being on, I'd say, on good terms with the network, maybe not necessarily the production company, but I think she was quite clever in how, even though she was kind of disgruntled with how everything happened, she was very clever to still defend the network, in some ways, and apologize as needed, whatever the case may be. So she was very great in maintaining those relationships, and who knows where, we will see Kenya Moore in other capacities on television. It could be her, a window of opportunity for her to go on other shows that Bravo has that is also making use of the legacy housewives. For example, Love Hotel, where Giselle and Ashley and Luann de Lesseps, darling, was on the show Finding Love. Maybe we could see Kenya Moore on the show because remember, she's divorced and she's definitely an eligible bachelorette, and I think it would be great for her to be actually on the show, and find love, and hopefully, she'll be able to settle down. So I think she's in a better space, and I think maybe there are other deals that are in the works for her to do on Bravo and on, in the greater NBC Universal family. And I think it's also a good move for her to step away now that her name is clear. So now it's no longer stepping away because there's kind of an overhanging issue where her reputation is kind of at stake. Now it's just more so the reputation has been cleared, she's vindicated, she's moving on gracefully to something else, and that's the most tasteful exit one can actually make, So NeNe Leakes' exit was not as tasteful, it was very messy, and although I think they've made up now, with the channel and I think they've made up because she's working with NBC Universal again in different capacities. I think that relationship was just very weird. So yeah, I do see Kenya Moore in other capacities, and I'm happy for the space that she's in if this is what she really wants to move away from the show, Go ahead, girl. Go ahead. Do you. Do more. Just going into like other things that you talked about, other than the fact that she's somewhat not returning. She did sort of allude to some of the newer cast members that may be joining the cast, and also the neighborhood talk also kind of confirmed. And the Shade Room, basically all the, the blogs that we love, confirmed that 2 new housewives will be joining the cast, and the cast of the Real Housewives of Atlanta of season 16 will be continuing, apart from obviously Kenya, Britt, and everyone else is continuing. I don't know how they're going to carry all of that weight, because I feel like this is probably the most cast members the Real Housewives has ever had. One, I think it's because they've maybe zeroed down the budget for these people in terms of their remuneration. Portia coming back, I don't think she's starting where she left off. This is a whole new era, and I think it's a whole new contract, and probably a whole new scale. So I think they can accommodate more cast members because I don't think they are giving them as much anymore, but I still think I'm very wary of having too many housewives on the show because, one, the storylines become quite thin, There's going to be a lot of cast members that feel like friends to the show, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you just brought on as a friend instead of a full-time cast member? Because how many minutes in a 40-minute episode can we really spend on how many Wow Housewives? Maybe almost 10 now. Okay, maybe not 10, but it's just too many, guys. It's too many. I don't think that's the answer. I think you need maybe 5 strong cast members who have depth, who have, storylines where their husbands or whoever their partners are involved. There's a very strong family angle, and people are not necessarily being carried by other cast members. They're not necessarily coming off as support, you know. Angela was a great addition, and I think we should be leaning towards casting those people who have brought on that dynamic, because we got to see her relationship with her husband. Didn't so much see her like relationship with the kids as much, but I think the dynamic with her spouse was still strong enough to make her relevant and bring us back to those days where the Real Housewives of Atlanta had active involvement, you know, with the husbands and the spouses. That really was the magic of the show. And when you look at like Married to Medicine, why I think it's probably the most successful show on Bravo for Black cast members right now is because the involvement of the husbands and the partners is so strong that it feels like a wholesome show. We feel like when we're delving into the, you know, each season, we're going in there getting a fuller picture of the cast members' lives, as opposed to just a snippet of them, you know, and giving us face value. And you know, that's where I feel like even Portia's storyline was thin last season. That's why I feel like a lot of the cast members, I'd say even Kelly's storyline, she's lovely, but I feel like her personal storyline could have been explored a bit more, because it looks like it was a very complicated storyline. And while maybe her ex-husband did not want to film with her, you know, I think those are some of the things that we need to talk about, and they need to negotiate before a cast member is even brought on. You know, we need to see and assess the pragmatism and how pragmatic the people around this cast member is, because the person can be a strong cast member, but without a unit, they might as well just be a friend to the show. So that's kind of my story on that. Too many housewives, adding 2 more to season 17 when the storylines in season 16 were not as explored and as much depth. I think you're carrying a lot of weight, and as much as you're probably not giving these girls as much as you guys were giving them in the heydays of the show, I don't think that's the answer. Quality over quantity, people. Production, quality over quantity. Please ask me, darling. Let me produce the show. Okay, I will give you guys a good show. So the rumored cast members are KMichelle, we all know who KMichelle is, and the slutty vegan CEO person, Pinky Cole. I have no context of her, I mean, other than the fact that her bio is, okay, she's the CEO of this company. Is she entertaining? We don't know. Is she probably high profile? Someone could assume that because of the position she has, you know, being a CEO of a company, essentially. So with KMichelle, though, I feel like we've seen KMichelle in different capacities within the NBC Universal, you know, universe, essentially. We've seen her on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, which was, for me, her best days, but also her messiest days personally. But that's what creates great television, people. That's what creates television. So she was messy. She was really an integral part in the success of that show, because she had so much drama. That girl was a scene stealer in many ways. I really loved KMichelle on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, the earlier seasons. Like, she was just perfect for it. And then we also saw her on Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. Still very messy boots, but a very different type of girl. I almost feel like she kind of had that I've made it energy, on that show at some point. So the hunger wasn't as there anymore. It was just more kind of here and there you'd see her sort of, coming to the party and bringing us a scene. But it wasn't as the earlier days. And that's where sometimes the energy for me gets lost, because it's like the person will give you their best in their earlier days. In the later chapters, you're not going to get that same girl. And if you are wishing and hoping that you're going to get that girl, you're going to be disappointed, because it's like, that's really not the energy. That's not the girl that you're going to get, So I do feel like it's one of those things where I think people expect her probably to have anchored her to be the person she was in Love and Hip Hop, but I think who she's going to be on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, if it's true that she is allegedly joining, is going to be completely different. We also saw her on Queen's Court, very beautiful energy. She seems like a very demure girl now, very changed and, almost boring. People don't really watch reality shows for people who have their shit together. No, they don't, people. They want the shitstorm. They want high drama. They want to be kept on the edge of their seat. So if we're getting newly married Kimberly Michelle, and pretty boring, pretty standard, pretty, uninteresting, that's, for me, not going to be a selling point, and it's not going to revive the show if we are talking about reviving the show. I think at this point, maybe they're just self-sabotaging the show. It's like they don't know what to do to fix the show, so they're going to keep on doing the opposite of what could likely be a better solution, and recycling the talent that they've worked with before, because maybe she's great to work with, but I also don't think that's necessarily for the good of the show, because she may be good to work with, which is why she's been on so many crossovers, right? But is she still a good talent? Is she in a space where she's going to give us great TV? I don't know. That really remains to be seen. Contrary, though, I was thinking Fallon would be a great cast member on the show. Fallon just got married, has a child. Fallon's husband took her surname and not the other way around. Fallon is also within that Portia storyline. They obviously have some animosity because of what happened, because Fallon was married to Simon and Portia married Simon, and it's alleged that Portia may have cheated with Simon while Fallon and Simon are still married. So that's a very interesting storyline, and they could play off of each other. I do feel like Fallon may actually be a crowd favorite or fan favorite, because we don't really know Fallon, even though she was a friend to the show at some point. That's how we kind of met her. We don't really know her, but I think there's room for her to entertain us, and I think that would have been a great casting decision. The other thing I want to talk about is Jocelyn Hernandez also saying that, well, they wouldn't let her do Real Houses of Atlanta. I mean, also the girl doesn't even live in Atlanta, one, but also Jocelyn is busy with like her stripper show and the cabaret situation, so make it make sense, sweetheart. Make it make sense, you know. I think we have also experienced Jocelyn in the capacity that we want to experience her in, and the cabaret thing, she can do that in that little corner of hers, and that's great for her because she's a great talent. Is she housewives material? Not necessarily. I think she's probably going to also expect some type of treatment because she's that girl. Well, she was that girl on her show, but that's not what we want necessarily. So yeah, Jocelyn girl, the commentary was funny and was also probably for clickbait because she just opened her cabaret whatever in LA or California. But hi girl, housewives, let's stick to do it like it's your B-day. Do it like it's your B-day, baby. Moving on to another NBC Universal show, Basketball Wives, also produced by Truly Original, interestingly. And I can go to town about Truly Original because, girl, she may be what the problem is in all of these shows. But to their vindication, I will say Basketball Wives season 12, or this current season, has actually been pretty good. The one thing that I would give them props on is the scene partner pairing thing. So when you watch the show from the beginning, you can almost clearly see that there are certain people who are always filming together. For example, Brittany and Chantel, Jackie and her daughter, Evelyn and her daughter, and then you had Ty who would film with, not Money Long Child. What's her name? Not Young Money either. What's her name? Ming Lee. They've developed scene partners, and I think that works because it looks like the relationship's unforced. So they've kind of made people who kind of have an existing relationship film together and also have group scenes where they all come together. So it also doesn't feel like the group is ganging up on one person, even though that still was the issue. It just felt like Jackie versus everybody in the season again, although the angle was different how they came for Jackie. The perspective of changing the cast, and adding people who add value to the show. For example, Ty, right? Ty isn't the most entertaining cast member on Basketball Wives. However, they have a neutralizing energy. When there is conflict in the group, you can see that they dissolve that conflict or bring the positive energy needed to sort of see the issue for what it is and move on from it and not see it as like a, drag on the pettiness. The angle of having Jackie's daughter on the show, while a lot of people were kind of speculating on how that'll actually play out, turns out, and maybe unfortunately for their relationship, it was actually good for the show, because they have underlying issues, mother-daughter issues, and in some ways it became the central focus of the show. I know they say that they're not going to have a reunion for the season, which is such a flop and such a letdown. Like, how dare you guys? You might as well just not have done the season, because I think this was the most interesting season in a while for you guys to actually have a reunion. And the reunion would literally be, well, if I was to set up the reunion, I would have Jackie and her daughter first seat sitting across from each other, because I feel like everything that happened in that whole season centers around those two people and almost egging on the problems of their relationship to the advantage of other cast members. Evelyn's relationship with Chantel, anyone can tell you that's not a genuine relationship. She just wants to get to Jackie in some other way, so she's going to use her daughter. And apparently there was a comment that she had made that and I think I remember actually hearing the comment, but essentially she was like, if Jackie does not speak to her daughter, or if her daughter never speaks to Jackie again, or if Chantal never speaks to Jackie again, then that'll be the best thing that can happen for her. You can't be around somebody like that who does not want a child to make up, or mend their relationship with their mother and think that they're a good person. She's feasluck, she's dirty, she is foul, she's fugazi, she is trash, she's a trashy girl, and I really just can't stand Evelyn's bullying tactics, because it's gone on for too long and people just enable her all the time. People need to stand 10 toes against her so that she does not continue the behavior that she's been doing for so many years. It's so tiring. Obviously, that story that came out of when Jackie was fighting with the daughter, and interestingly, the public took Jackie's side in all of that because they considered the daughter to be quite disrespectful, and essentially having, allegedly just gone on the show to kind of soil her mother's name. And so they kind of saw through maybe the way she tried to manipulate the audience to sort of see her. And while they have a complicated relationship and there's merit to her feelings towards her mother, I also think that maybe how she went about it is what fell on not the best ears, because she ended up making herself look bad. And in some ways I do feel like they're two sides of the same coin. They're very similar, they almost sound the same, and if one is a narcissist, what makes the other? E! News was cancelled after 34 years being on air, and essentially what they are doing with the brand is dissolving it into Access Hollywood. It's going to become a digital or online sort of platform. I do think it's a long time coming, because I feel like E! News has not been the same since Juliana Rancic and Ryan Seacrest days. And also since TV days, let's be honest, a lot of these concepts for television shows aren't necessarily working as much anymore because the television age isn't really apparent as much anymore. Yes, they were giving us the latest celebrity gossip on television, but now people just hop onto the Shade Room or the Neighborhood Talk or one of the blogs on YouTube, honey, or TikTok, wherever, to get the latest information on so many different things, and so many people are reporting on the same thing that they're reporting on. So the institution that it was is not necessarily what it is now, and I can understand why it's probably being cancelled because it's just not the same. But I also think it has to do with the people, right? I think Juliana and Ryan were the fabric of that show in the time that I think was its peak, you know, and you wouldn't want to miss it. You wouldn't want to miss Eli from the red carpet with Juliana and Ryan. You wouldn't want to miss E! News because these people were almost in their element. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing at that time with their lives, and it showed because they were so good and they were impressionable, and people remember them to this day. So I do feel like, yes, after 34 years, I think they were kind of struggling to even keep it going after those people left because it hasn't been the same. I haven't watched it for many, many years, you know, because it's just not what it is anymore, and it's almost not even necessary, you know. And yeah, man, like, yeah, it's quite unfortunate, but I also feel like it's about time. It'll be interesting to see, just even with the E! Network, what they do to evolve, you know, what they're going to continue to do to keep it relevant, because I think even the E! Network itself is not as relevant as it was back in the day, child. Like, it was so good, and you know, maybe a lot of that has to do with the program that they chose. At some point, they were heavily into the Kardashians. That's all you would see on the network, other than E! News and some other shows. And I think that also kind of became a key person risk, because when they left that network, even though they still have reruns of the show, a lot of people are kind of like, well, we only really knew this network for that show and maybe E! News as well. But like now it's like, what is it even there to do? You know, what do people tune in to that channel for? Bravo at least has Housewives. Peacock, which is an extension of Bravo, has Housewives. Not all of them, but you know, has most of them, if they're not airing on Bravo concurrently, whatever the case may be. So there's no unique value proposition, and because of that, I think that's where they're faltering. So beyond just cancelling E! News, honey, what does that mean for E! itself? To end on a positive note, as per usual, we have summer music that's still rolling out, and hot off the press this week is We Wanna Party Darling by Tyla, you know, which was a cute little EP of 4 songs that was released. It's got Bliss, Is It, Mr. Media, and it also has Dynamite, which is a song that she made with Wizkid in 2022, and it's only coming to light of day now. Not necessarily my favorite song, you know, but maybe I can understand people who'd appreciate it, but it's not like something that's like, you know, making me want to like shake my waist and shit. Is It, also not necessarily my cup of tea. Bliss, not necessarily also my cup of tea, but it's okay. I can see the pop vision in it. I almost feel like this EP was kind of a trial and error. It's like, let me, you know, release 4 different songs in almost like 4 different genres: R&B, Afrobeats, maybe Amapiano, and pop, right? And let's see what the audience is gravitating towards. If the audience is gravitating towards a particular genre, the next album that's going to come, or the next set of songs she's going to release, are going to be maybe somewhere within that genre to maintain that momentum, and so that people can sort of start to know what to expect from her. Because I do think that she is making different music, different genres, and genre bending in very different ways, which is great. But I almost don't want her to get lost in experimenting. You know, I want her to continue to maintain her identity, and if that is her sticking to her Amapiano roots, South African roots, let her stick to that, and let her give us the content that you can see that it is rooted in something, but has evolved into something else, and it's beautiful. You know, I know obviously she gets a lot of criticism for her music sounding exactly the same. Those people are ignorant. They don't know Amapiano. Like, just because there's a particular drum or instrumental that's consistent in most music, that's the identity of it. It's not necessarily it's sounding the same. You can't tell me Water and Push to Start sounds the same, or, you know, Shake Up. Like, they don't sound the same at all, people. You wouldn't even hear them playing maybe in the same environment. So please, with your ignorance. The media of the 4 songs was absolutely my favorite. Like, it's just giving, you know, you want to just do the most. It's cute. I see where we're going with We Wanna Party. It's definitely a tester. We love the new music from Tyla, obviously, because girl, you know, if the haters are going to hate, we are going to promote Tyla, you know, obviously, because you can't deny talent, people. You really can't deny talent. I came across the song by Maleek Berry, who's also an Afrobeats artist, and he's got the song called Lately, and I absolutely love it. Maleek Berry has definitely been somebody I've listened to for quite a while, you know, from the Bend days, and now he's got the song called Lately, which is not a new song, but he's been releasing quite a couple of new songs, actually, you know, Summer 25, and I'm just like, Maleek, this is what I'm talking about. I just think he's such a talented musician, and Lately is really just making me very reminiscent. So Maleek, honey, continue to give us what we want, continue to be a great musician, and give me more, darling. Give me more, and continue to flourish. We want to see it. We want to hear it. Summer 25! Let me know what songs you've been listening to in the summer and what's been getting you to, like, shake your waist and do the most and feel in the mood of the season. Anyway, babies, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Messiest Bitch on the Internet. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also follow us on Instagram at BigMoneyEntertainment_, and I'll see you again on the next one.